Fibromyalgia, CFS, long COVID. I could keep adding to the list. What are the differences, if there are any, and what's the underlying root to all of these things? I've been working in this field, well, I've been working in the field for over 30 years, but been working specifically in the realm of chronic illness for 20 years now. And I remember when I met my now good friend Deepak Ravindran, and he kindly reached out to me on LinkedIn because he was setting up the long COVID unit and facility within West Berkshire here in the UK. I said, well, I've got a bit of a theory on this. And he said, all right, what's that? And I thought, oh, cautiously, is he going to think I'm nuts? But what the heck? And I said, well, look, I've got a bit of a theory. I said, it's very similar to fibromyalgia, ME, chronic fatigue syndrome. There's a similarity that I'm seeing. And this is why I don't like labels, because it's what's going on underneath. You see these people with POTS and so on, all of these things that we're going to talk about in subsequent videos. I said to him, look, I think it's what was the state of the nervous system before the COVID landed upon it. And he said, I tend to agree. And I said, look, I don't think people that don't already have a predisposition with a dysregulated nervous system, with some trauma in the nervous system, with an activated nervous system, and therefore an altered neural, immune, inflammatory and endocrine system, the PNIE system that I speak about frequently, is disturbed in these individuals. And now, fast forward a few years, the research is there. The research is now there to suggest that these people are predisposed. They are predictors almost for people that would get long COVID. Yeah? And they are people that have already got dysregulated nervous systems. There's usually something going on. They're not managing, it's not about their being stressed out, but they've got systems that do not manage load in the nervous system very well. Fibromyalgia. Well, I mean, if we break the word down, fibro, well, it suggests that there's a fibrosing, which is like a knotting of the tissue. And actually all the evidence is that there's no fibrotic tissue at all in anybody with a fibromyalgia. It was around when I trained 35 years ago. That was around then as a term. But it was a bit of a throwaway kind of, well, gosh, they've got pain all over the place and lots of muscles have sensitivity. And there's all sorts of diagnoses of, oh, when you get 75% of these points hurt when you touch them, then that's a diagnosis for fibromyalgia. I'm like, oh, really? You work with fibromyalgia, the pain changes every day and they just hurt all over the place. It's more of a muscular type pain. And myo is meaning muscle and algia meaning pain. So it's a fibrosing muscular pain. Actually, there's no fibrosis really when we analyse patients with fibromyalgia. CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome, or ME, these are the fatigue-based and energy-based presentations of these chronic illness states. Long COVID, they are subtly different, these things, in the presentation. So one is more pain, one is more fatigue, and one, very often there is pain, there is fatigue, there is brain fog is a very big part of long COVID patients, sometimes ongoing respiratory issues as well. Any diagnosis that we ever give in healthcare is usually based on what symptoms have they got. Yeah, and then that leads us into a diagnosis. Of course, there may be a pathology. Okay, have we got Lewy body dementia? Because we know that that's how that presents when that part of the brain becomes involved. Is the substantia nigra involved? Is that Parkinson's disease? Because we know substantia nigra is not, operating properly. So yes, of course, there's a diagnosis. But when we know that this isn't down to a singular structure that's failed, and we've got a more complex thing here between the nervous system, the immune system, the endocrine system, and how they all link, then really I think the label stops being important. If a traumatized nervous system will mean that the autonomic nervous system responds differently, and when we have sympathetic activation, then we will tend to create inflammatory cytokines into the system, and we also do what I call prepare to repair. So the immune system activation goes up to your lymphocyte production, NK cells, microglial cells, and so sometimes that's potentially involved in the some of the issues of memory, because that starts to have an impact on the immune system, creating almost an autoimmune response at a neural level, and starting to get dendritic kind of impacts from the immune system being active within the brain and the central nervous system. And so anything which activates the immune system falsely, if you like, and puts it on for too long in a chronic fashion, is going to cause all sorts of mayhem in the body. It's going to cause any sort of autoimmune problem. So quite frankly, if you're getting inflammation because the body's saying, okay, if I'm running away from this tiger history and says to me, I'm going to need to repair myself, and I might get cut and I might get an infection, so I'm going to prepare to repair. So I'm going to send out inflammatory chemicals into the body just to get ready for this repair that's likely to be needed. It gets stuck on. And so we got masses of inflammation, and the system's sitting there going, there's a problem, it's ready. Where's the threat? The NK cells are looking out for the problem all the time. They're on red alert. It's a bit like someone said, there's an invasion due here, and we've got all the troops out, and they're trigger happy. And they're all sitting on the borders of the country going, where's this attack coming? Because apparently it is. And they're a bit trigger happy. And so, of course, we then get the COVID lands upon us, or we have it injected into us, and all of a sudden it goes, there it is, boom, and the whole thing goes off like a box of fireworks, and it has an over-the-top response, and it stays on. And so, we're getting an understanding now of long COVID being fundamentally a problem of the nervous system and the immune system prior to the infection. Yeah, and so if we're going to deal with long COVID, we have to deal with the nervous system's dysregulation, to take down the inflammation process and to take down the autoimmune response. And certainly the inflammation or any immune responses are going to affect the muscles and give you the myalgia. And the other thing is, it's also exhausting and it's fatiguing, because the system it's like you've got your foot on the sympathetic nervous system the whole time, potentially on the brake as well. We've got this kind of freeze response. It's not a regulated nervous system, and so it is literally like, your car would burn out, and it's like launch control in an F1 car. It's like the revs are up, but the brake is on, and it's like, oh, it's just going to go poof, and it's going to fly off. That's exhausting. It's hard work for the body. And this is where the fatigue elements come in, So chronic fatigue syndrome, CFS, ME, fibromyalgia. I hope I've given some sort of explanation as to why really it doesn't matter about what we call it and what the commonalities and the root cause to all of these things is. And another video we're going to do soon is on dysautonomia. And really, I think all of these things probably are just dysautonomia, with an add-on. And an added complication, or it's how dysautonomia presents itself. Hi, I'm Roger. Thanks for watching the video. Hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe buttons.